Welcome to episode 5 of Mitts Off. Today we are joined in studio by my former teammate with the Texas Stars, the original Big Rig. Jamie Oleksiak is here. Jamie is one of the most interesting guys in hockey and also one of the tallest. Wait till you see the size of this guy's stick. Mitts Off is powered by Sports Interaction, our exclusive betting partner. Get in the action all summer long. Download the app to get started, 19 plus, and please play responsibly. Here we are in studio, joined by my former Texas Stars teammate. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Jamie Oleksiak's in the building, the former Big Rig. Want to congratulate you, man. Last year, you had a huge year, career year in points. Had a great playoffs, too. 4th on the team in block shots, led the team in hits. It's been a long road for you, man. You know, what do you think attributed to that? And you know, how were you able to achieve having such a great year last year?
You know what? I think just a big product of it was kind of learning my game, my role within the team. You know, I think being a bigger guy, it's kind of hard to miss me with the pucks and whatnot, and I kind of use that to my advantage. And you know, it's just a product of the system we have and the group of guys we have and whatnot, and figured out my game a little bit.
You talked about being a big guy. What's it like being 6'10" in the league as a defenseman? I'd imagine that's something completely different. I'm a big guy. I got to be 6'6" on skates. I know a little bit about it, but you brought your stick in here, and just being that big presence, you know, what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they keep saying the game's getting smaller and faster. You know, I think being a bigger guy, you definitely have to be able to adapt. You know, I think gone are the days where, you know, you're a big guy that just kind of plays Northwest and finishes checks and that's it. You have to kind of contribute in different ways. And, you know, I think I try to put that work in the off season to, you know, improve mobility wise and add different aspects to my game. But, you know, I think just kind of being adaptable is a big thing there.
Man, you're spoken very well. You've adapted to the game in a great way. And I think one of the things that shocked me when I played with you was how skilled you were and how big your hands were, how mobile. And you mentioned that, you know, about being a big guy in the league, but you have a lot of offensive talent, a lot of offensive skill base. Do you feel like, do you feel some sort of, you know, typecast or stereotype to play as that big, strong, tall, shut down defenseman on your blue line, but, you know, also want to mix in a couple dangles here and then and kind of show off that offensive talent that you have?
Not really. I mean, like I said, I think through the years I've kind of fine-tuned my game a little bit, and I've learned when I can like, you know, jump into the play and make those plays offensively. You know, I think I do have that skill set, but I mean, I'm obviously a big guy, and that kind of what separates me from other guys in the lineup. There's so many skilled guys in the league, you know, and I think being a big guy that can, you know, be physical, but at the same time move the puck is huge for me. And I think, you know, I've just been trying to make that work to my advantage as much as possible.
Well, you're doing a heck of a job at it, buddy. Let's take the time back all the way to rookie year, Austin, Texas. You were just mentioning off camera before we started this about how that was some of the best times of your life. Can you expand on that? And, you know, that was your first year, your first foray into pro hockey. That was lockout year, how good the league was at the time. Can you talk about playing in the AHL about that time? Yeah,
man. I mean, you know, AHL is such a unique situation because you got a lot of guys that are kind of younger, figuring out the league, you know, and everyone's kind of in a very similar position. And I'm biased here, but I think Austin, Texas is probably one of the best places to play in the AHL. There, you know what I mean? I mean, it's a little different now. You have teams in California, San Diego, and Coachella Valley and whatnot. But I mean, quality of living in Austin, Texas was tough to beat. And the group of guys we had in the locker room too, it was so much fun. And it was a great atmosphere to be around. I mean, Cedar Park was always rocking. We always had good teams there
great
too.
Barn.
You know, Willie Desjardins was our coach there, and he was a great guy that kind of knew what buttons to push, when to let off the guys, and when to get on them and whatnot. And I think a lot of guys really thrived in that environment. You know,
I remember Willie. About halfway through the year, he absolutely lost to you full toe drag, like the last forechecker or something like that. You baited him all the way out here and just brought him in. It was unbelievable. Willie's having a heart attack on the bench. Was there a lot of adjustment that year, kind of getting into pro hockey, getting your feet wet?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, you hear the stories like, you know, going into your first camp as an 18, 19-year-old kid, and you just look at the guys in the locker room. You know what I mean? You know, we had Sheldon Surrey and Trevor Daley and Brad Lukowicz and these guys that a few years before I was playing NHL 09, and, you know, I'm like trading for them and whatnot. So to be in the room with the guys, you know, Joe Nieuwendyke's the GM there too. So it was just kind of like a wide-eyed experience. But, you know, you kind of learn to get settled. And I think also going to the A and kind of figuring out the program a little bit, getting that confidence really helped out a lot too.
So let's jump into that. I mean, if you take a look at your hockey DB, it's a lot of up and down those first couple of years, right? 20 games here, 40 games down. It's not a bad drive up and down 35 to get from Austin to Dallas, but mentally that can be a challenge, man, right? Can you kind of talk about, you know, your first couple of years and the experience of, you know, going up and down so many times?
It's tough, man. I mean, especially because beforehand, playing college hockey in juniors, I hadn't really dealt with, you know, being a healthy scratch and dealing with kind of the business aspect of it in terms of getting called up and down. And I think being in that situation where you're a healthy scratch for multiple games in a row, I just got so much respect for those guys that can do that and maintain a positive attitude the whole time through, because especially when you're a young kid, 19, 20, like you just want to play hockey, and to be in that situation, you definitely fight some demons. And like I said, I think, you know, it was a good experience for me kind of dealing with that adversity and whatnot. And it also humbles you quite a bit too, you know?
Well, I think it certainly humbles you. You definitely feel in the dark. I had read something about how you got caught in this gray area, and I'll call the gray area the waiver wire. Is like the team gets in this difficult position where they don't necessarily want to send you down. A guy like you is probably a big catch, right? Former first rounder, maybe not getting the opportunity, probably going to get picked up. 30 teams aren't going to pass you by. So they don't want to put you on waivers. They don't want to send you down because you have to clear, but you're in the NHL and you're not playing. Dude, I just felt like I wasn't even part of the team at some points. Right, you know what I mean? Especially when you get into heavy stretches of games, you don't see the guys on game day at all, right? Mm-hmm. Like you stay at the rink, you get your workouts in, and then you get to talk to the guys briefly. And if that adds up, man, I just felt like I wasn't a part of it. Did you have kind of that similar, you know, experience going through that kind of waiver eligibility time?
Oh, 100%, man. I mean, you know, you're already walking on eggshells because you're a young kid in the organization. At the same time, you know, you don't want to get in guys' way as they're getting ready for games and whatnot. So, you know, you're morning skating and you want to mix in reps and whatnot, but you want to make sure the other guys are ready to go. And like you said, I mean, you don't see the guys much because you're usually bag skating after morning skate or you're working out or whatever. So, you know, you cut a toe a fine line there, you know, and like I said, I mean, nowadays when I see guys in that situation, you know, they do such a good job. I mean, at least in Seattle, of staying positive, and I just have so much respect for that. You know what I mean? Because it's such a tough position to be in. You know?
Yeah, just being a good pro. Hey,
right.
I mean, you that first year, if we're talking about being a good pro, fed into that perfectly. I just didn't see you show a lot of emotion. I want to say any negative emotion. So any sort of anger or like sadness, I didn't see you outwardly show that. You love to laugh, love to smile, saw a lot of the happy things, but is that kind of just the guy you are, that no matter what comes your way, you're trying to stay level-headed? Or are you kind of, you know, are you going nuts behind closed doors? Or are you just kind of, you know, keeping the cards close to the chest? I
mean, throughout the season, you're always dealing with those ups and downs and whatnot. I try and keep a pretty good perspective in terms of things and try and keep even keel. You know, my dad's a very stoic individual, and I think I've kind of inherited a little bit of that from him, you know? So I think having that mentality is huge because, as I just said, I mean, season can be a grind. And if you think too much into situations or if you just kind of shut down, then you know, you can force your way out of the league pretty quickly, you know? So I think it's kind of huge to be able to really just take it day by day there.
I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there watching or listening that is probably going through or will go through a similar situation. I guess a question I would ask for you is, how do you keep your confidence? Like going through all those ups and downs you talk about, how is it possible to keep instilling confidence in yourself and your teammates around you?
I mean, it's a tough question, man. I mean, I wish I could have said I handled it as well as I wish I did back then. You know, I think it definitely took a growth period there to figure out, you know, to have that mentality and whatnot. I think honestly, a big thing for me was why I ended up going to Pittsburgh, and they gave me the opportunity and playing playoffs. And then I was like, okay, like I can compete in playoffs and getting that confidence and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough road to tread for sure.
You were very, you know, I guess trusting of that process, but it came to a head right? Like you said in Pittsburgh. And this is fascinating to me, man. This trade is one of the most fascinating things in hockey. So I'll start with, you get traded to Pittsburgh for a conditional fourth, correct?
Right, yeah.
Do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, and then almost a year to the day, I get traded back to Dallas for the same pick. You know?
So what was the message leaving? And I guess, maybe you can give us some insight on the message coming back as well.
Man, I'm still kind of, my mind's in a pretzel what went down there, I mean, it was a tough situation in Dallas, as we talked about, and went to Pittsburgh and, got the opportunity, played playoffs that season, signed a 3-year deal. And then the following, just after Christmas, getting traded back to Dallas. And I think I remember talking to Jim Nill, and he was like, look, like, you never know what's going to happen. Things seem to come full circle. And I said, okay, like, you're not kidding, here exactly. We are. And I mean, it was great. I love my time in Dallas. It's a good group of guys, and it was just a very unique experience overall.
So
right?
Were you pumped to go back?
I was excited just in terms of, like, I knew everybody already, and I knew the team. I knew what I was getting myself into. Sometimes when you're going to a new team, you're trying to find your way in the lineup and find your way around the guys and whatnot. So that was very convenient for me. It was a pretty easy transition. But the first couple of days is kind of like, what happened, guys? I guess I'm back. Like, here we are,
Did you see that as motivation almost? I guess you got to Pittsburgh, you got to play a ton, you got to play a little bit of a playoff stretch there, sign the deal. Was getting traded, was that a motivation to you? Did you take that as, like, not a shot, but, a motivation in your career?
Absolutely. I mean, I treated it as, okay, I got a fresh slate here. I can come in and, whatever happens, I'll just do what I can and let the results be what they may. And I think going into Pittsburgh, they let me play a string of games in a row. I wasn't worried about if I play one bad game, I'm going to get taken out. I had a kind of a little bit of leeway there to get accustomed to the team and whatnot. And it just took off from there. Like I said, I think, and then playing playoffs and getting some big minutes in playoffs was huge for me as well. And the rest is history.
It's amazing how much a little bit of rope can go for confidence, hey?
Oh, 100%. I mean, when you're a guy that's in and out every so often, you want to make yourself stand out, but at the same time, you don't want to do anything that'll take you out as well. So it's
the ultimate conundrum. Huh?
Oh, man.
So with all the ups and downs, I'm sure people would want to know, was there a certain, like, moment in time where it kind of clicked for you? Because I feel like, honestly, one day you showed up and it was like, you were just dominant. And it's not like you weren't before, but maybe the trade to Pitt or, the opportunity and increased ice time. Is there something that clicked for you?
For sure. I mean, going to Pitt, getting that opportunity to play multiple games in a row. And I think also being a bigger guy, it kind of takes some time to grow into your body a little bit and kind of feel, your place in the game. And I think playing multiple games in a row kind of let me figure out, where I could contribute, where I could use my advantages and whatnot. And being in Pitt also, they had Sergei Gonchar there, which was a huge part of my development personally. I mean, every day he would have, like, a video breakdown and give me little tidbits of what my game can improve upon. And I was very fortunate to have a guy like him there.
For sure, because I think you do see, like you said, the evolution of big guys in the league. Chara's one of them that took a couple of years to kind of almost get into their body, like get into their size. And Chara took 2 teams. You took 2 teams. Is it maybe just something for a bigger guy, just figuring out the league?
I think so. I mean, you're coming to the league 18, 19 years old, right? You generally hit the growth spurt. I mean, I didn't hit my growth spurt until I was probably 16, 17, right? So I'm still kind of a little gangly, a little bit of a Bambi on ice. And you got to take some time to put that muscle on and get used to the new joints and whatnot. And I think, it's probably a story for a lot of big guys in the league.
And I have to ask every single person that I know played for Pittsburgh. Someone's got to have a Sid story, right? It's my favorite player in the league. Everybody has a Sid story. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but even just a general observation about your time there with him. Can you give me something on Sid?
I mean, Sid is just, Sidney Crosby. He's just held to such a high standard, you know what I mean? And guys kind of put him on a pedestal a little bit, but when you meet Sid, he's the most down-to-earth, approachable guy ever, no matter what situation you're in, who you are. Like I said, even in my situation going to Pittsburgh, I mean, talked to me right away, and he was a very easy guy to talk to, and makes you feel very welcome and whatnot. And I think just a great example of what a leader should be. You know what I mean? So I think he makes everyone feel very welcome in the locker room, and even not within the team. Even outside, he's just a very approachable and positive guy.
I heard has crazy routines, or call it superstition, but Colby Armstrong talked about how he ordered a bowl of cereal and he was eating cereal in the room before he left, and then the stuff he did at the rink. Did you see stuff like that? Was he very just dialed in terms of his preparation?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think even the music, because when I went in, they won cups like back to back, and I think the music just was the same music the whole year through. Like it was the same, lined up at the same times and everything, and I think that was a bit of a Sid thing there. So yeah, I mean, if it works for you, then what are you gonna do? Yeah,
why not? Going into the bubble, I gotta ask you about the bubble, man, because you're back in Dallas now. I saw a great clip yesterday about the NBA bubble. It was a split screen with LeBron James and Steven Adams, and LeBron was like, the bubble for me was, you guys have no idea how hard it was, and you guys don't understand how much it's out of our comfort zone. And then I went to Steven Adams, and he's like, mate, we were staying in a 5-star hotel. We had all the food we needed. Like, it really wasn't that bad. How was the bubble for you?
I mean, it got kind of Lord of the Flies there, honestly, man. We were there for like 76 days, I think, with Dallas, and I don't think, you touch grass maybe once. So it was a long period there. And the bubble in Edmonton, from what I understand, was a lot different than the bubble in Toronto.
Yeah.
So, I think you just kind of put the blinders on and you're just like, okay, go to work, get it done, and hopefully finish the series as quickly as possible, But I did actually, when I checked out, I signed up for the Marriott. So I got a ton of Marriott
points. Are up, buddy. So travel points.
I got a bunch of free nights and everything out of that.
Platinum elite, eh?
Right away.
Oh, that's unreal. What about that? Did I read you lost that beautiful tooth right there in the bubble?
I did. I think I got an elbow in the mouth against Tampa, game 2, I think. And
do you remember how it happened?
I was in the corner, and I forget who it was, but I was just battling with them, and they kind of threw their elbow back a little bit, caught me in the mouth, and I felt it come loose. I had a cap on it before, but that just dusted that away. And then I remember after the game, I couldn't go to the dentist, right? Because we're in the bubble. So I'm in the ref's shower, and they have the dentist table set up, and they have a guy come in wearing the mask and everything. And it's just the sounds ringing, dentist already sucks, right? How the sounds and everything, and it just vibrating off the walls. And this guy's so casual about it, and I'm just going nuts in there. So it was all part of the grind, I guess, man.
Boy, this guy was your year. I lost this guy. Same thing. I got jumped up. Paul Carey jumped up and elbowed me, and same thing. I was in the back room of a trainer's office in Cleveland. Dentist is in there pulling the thing out. I got the legs up. The boys are all taking pictures. It was more annoying to me that it hurt. But let's jump into modern day NHL here. I watched the way you play, taking on heavy minutes, taking on top lines, taking on top players. Rig, I don't think I could play in today's NHL. I really don't. I think when I was in the league, I was there for a specific purpose, which is not around as much anymore. You had to be able to skate and produce, but it's so fast, man. Yeah. And the players, like you mentioned, this is the best the players have ever been, the best the game has ever been. A guy that's on the ice all the time, is there someone over the last couple of years, let's say a player or a line that has jumped out, maybe let's say other than Davo, or because I feel like that might be a popular answer. Connor McDavid, sorry, Davo with the nicknames. Is there someone that stands out as a real challenge for you every time they come to town or you go in there in defending?
I mean, I guess, similar mold to McDavid, but that McKinnon, we played that playoff series against Colorado, this past playoff. Every time McKinnon's on the ice, he's just so fast, so shifty, and like you said, being a tough guy, it's hard to catch up to him, you know what I mean? So just kind of containing him to the outside, let him limit his scoring chances and whatnot, and he just keeps coming at you too. He's a very competitive guy. So on that team as well, Cale Makar, I know he's a D-man, but he can make your life difficult all over the ice. He just has such vision, and he's so mobile and active on both ends of the ice. So, two guys like that are definitely guys that stand out.
Yeah, and your cardio is unreal, but I can imagine going into Mile High. Like you're playing at altitude. The altitude in Denver is no joke.
Oh yeah.
The first period was honestly was a nightmare. Like I felt like you had asthma. I felt like someone was standing on my chest.
Yeah.
First of all, do you feel that?
The morning skate, man. I didn't even make it to the first period. You're going from morning skate and you're just doing like the light shoot around, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
I have to let take some strides here,
That's interesting about McKinnon, though, because he reverse hit me one night in Colorado. I think I had just taken it for granted. I was towards the end of a shift, and the benches are right beside each other, and I took a full 240-pound run at him, and I just bounced off him. Yeah. He's physical, he's fast, and I think his just unpredictability on the ice must be tough to defend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's so dynamic, man. Like I said, he's a competitor, too, so he's not going to take shifts off, and like you said, you can take hits at him and make runs and whatnot, and he's just going to keep coming back. So,
you being a tall guy, I know you like to mix it up every now and then with a couple scraps. When you came into the league, I remember thinking I would never fight this guy after I shook your hand, just because you're so big, so strong. I think you've kind of found your footing fighting here a little bit now. It's trial by fire, right? I think you pick up a little bit with every fight that goes, especially as a big guy. You kind of learn how big you are and the ins and outs. The fight that we brought up before here was Chara after he had like an elite shift, but you guys had a great scrap. Can you tell us about the Chara scrap?
Man, we were playing, in the Garden, and I think we were down 6-3 when I was with Pitt, and I'm in the corner battling for the puck. I just feel a big cross check on my back. Two of them, and I went, okay, like whoever this is, it's time. Like I got to do something here. I turn around and I'm just looking at the spoked B, and I tilt my head up, and then it's like Big Z. My stick's already down, my gloves are half off, and I was like, all right, man, I guess we got to do this. You know what I mean? And he was game for it, and I remember at one point in the fight, I got my right arm loose, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna connect on this one. Just nowhere near him, you know what I mean? So that was a fun fight. And then in the box after, he told me that he just played 2 minutes, which I guess I'm a little fortunate for that because he did pretty well even after that. But that was a memorable one.
Is there any other, in terms of scrapping, is there any other thing you look for, like being on Seattle? I guess you would be the guy, right? There's a couple guys who might throw down every now and then, but do you find yourself looking over the boys a little bit in Seattle?
Not really. I mean, I think, we got guys that'll step up to the plate, and like you said, the game's so different now. I think there's not many like true heavyweights, left. There's a few guys left, but we got like even Gordo. He's a smaller guy, but he's not afraid to mix it up. Even Dunny's got a couple good scraps as well. So, we got guys that are gamers, and that's just really what it's about. Like, guys aren't really fighting every other game these days, as long as you just stick up when you can and show the boys that you care. I think that's a big thing, right? For sure. I think one thing that I'm fascinated about is we kind of touched on it, same thing off camera, but while you're here and back home in Toronto, you work your tail off. You put in good summers of training. What's a summer of training look like for a 6'7", 200? What are you, 260? What kind of training are you doing? What are you looking to improve on? In the summers here. We touched on just being adaptable, moving being a bigger guy, just being able to have that quick feet and lateral movement is huge, and I think that's something you're always trying to improve upon. Older I get as well, I think it's more of a mobility thing than it is lifting heavy. I think I'm already like a pretty big guy and have a lot of weight behind me, so I don't necessarily need like the max reps of this and that. I think it's more functional stuff and movement based, and kind of working the smaller muscle groups, and cardio is huge as well for me. You get in the pool at all? I think I read you were doing some pool training. Yeah, I did some pool training there with one of Penny's old coaches, and I think as an athlete you always want to you can kind of get a little monotonous doing the same thing over and over again. So I want to do something different, work different muscle groups. And I said, I'll give a try at swimming. And then I saw videos of myself swimming, and I went, okay, I don't think this is my sport, Definitely not going to beat Penny in any races anytime soon. But it was something different. I think there's great aspects of it in terms of breathing. You know, the boxing is the same kind of thing. You do boxing, you're working footwork, you're working, you know, breathing technique, not holding your breath and whatnot. So there's definitely things you can bring in from other sports.
Yeah, you mentioned your sister Penny, not just female, greatest Canadian Olympian of all time, seven medals. What's it like growing up in a household with her? Is there sibling competition, or what was like that growing up?
Not quite. I mean, there's a pretty big gap between us. There's like a 7-year gap or something, right? So like, kind of a funny story. Back before the first Olympics in Rio 2016, I was already in Austin, and Penny had just started swimming and whatnot. Like, she started pretty late. I think she was 15 when she started swimming, or 14 or something. And I would get updates from my mom all the time. You know, Penny's doing great in swimming. And I'd be like, oh, that's great, Mom. Good to hear. I'm glad, you know, she's found something that she enjoys doing, just thinking it was a casual thing. And then I remember getting a call one time from my mom, and it's like, oh, she's going to Rio this year for the Olympics. And I was just, wait, what? Okay. I guess we're doing this. And then went there, and she did what she did. And I mean,
It's just a late bloomer, eh?
yeah, I mean, she's kind of got the body for it. She's, you know, got the big shoulders and long limbs and whatnot, and she's really taken to it. But yeah, she found her thing, that's for sure.
You mentioned Rio. How cool was that? There's a video of you cheering her on in the stands. You got to go down there. Talk about that experience. That's unreal to get to go down there.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, Rio is a great time. You know, beautiful city, and I mean, it was my first time experiencing the Olympics, and just the show they put on and whatnot. It was really cool. And as you can see from the video, I mean, she was 16 going to the Olympics, and we weren't expecting a whole lot. We were kind of like, okay, this is great. You know, she's going to get the experience, and maybe down the road she'll be able to, you know, achieve a lot. But, you know, she won, I don't even know how many medals there.
4?
Was it 4?
Yeah, I think it was 4.
Who's counting? But did what she did, and we were just losing it after that.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Well, I want you to talk about just a little bit on the upcoming year here. I'm sure you're excited to get going, get back to Seattle, all things trending upwards out there. Can you talk about a little bit of an outlook on next year and where the team's going and where you're going individually?
I mean, obviously build off what we did last year. I think the goal is always playoffs, because once you get into playoffs, you never know what's going to happen. And I mean, I think last year being able to beat Colorado in the first round and doing as well as we did, I think that's set a high bar, and that's something we want to get back to. So you don't want to look too far ahead, but I think this year we want to, you know, get off to a good start and try not to be in a wild card position, obviously. And you know, like I said, playoffs is always the ultimate goal, right?
Tough Pacific, hey?
Yeah. I mean, you know, the Metro is always a bloodbath too, and the Pacific's got some teams coming up, but you know, there's never any easy nights in the league these days. So it's definitely a lot of fun.
Well, best of luck to you. But before you go, you did bring a stick in here. So where are we at? I'm going to grab it. Tell us about this stick. I heard you had to get an exemption from the league on this one for height. Is that true?
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what the rules are. I think it's
so
if you're
big.
6'6" and above, you have to get some kind of exemption there. So yeah, it's a pretty good piece of lumber. It's really stiff.
Tallest stick in the NHL, I believe.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Yeah.
What flex?
120.
120. Is there a plug in here? Or is this it's
a plug, yeah. I just put a wood plug in there. I just got used to the feel, so I've stuck with it ever since.
Does that make it stiffer or flimsier?
I think it's just a feel thing, like for your top hand and whatnot.
But it's pretty standard. What's the curve here? What do you got going here?
So I thought I had been using a Sakic this whole time.
Looks like
but they told me last year it's not a Sakic. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty stock curve. You know, I think it's just something they picked off the wall. But.
Definitely a little toe there, but hey, it's working.
Yeah, there we go. Sometimes.
I mean, I know there's a lot of players listening. That's one of the goals that I made this podcast, is to have a lot of players listening and try to pick up some things, some advice. What would you say to a guy that's kind of going through that similar situation, really trying to break into the NHL, but the ups and downs of that journey?
I think the big thing would be to kind of take it day by day, just attack it one day at a time and look at the job at hand that day and not get too far ahead of yourself and look too deeply into things. You're there for a reason. You're there in the NHL because they think you deserve to be there. So your time's going to come. Just keep putting the work in. You know, they'll see that and whatnot. And I think also having interest outside of hockey is big too. I mean, you look at like a guy like Jokic, right? I mean, he's probably a little bit more casual, but you know, I think if you become super focused on hockey, you might become a little tense and a little grip your stick a little bit harder and whatnot. And it's important to put that in perspective. It's still a game. You know, it's obviously we're all very privileged to play it, and it is a very big business and whatnot, but you want to enjoy doing it. So you sometimes have to get away from the game a little bit to really appreciate it.
I think it's patience, man, right?
Yeah.
Like it's getting kids to understand everyone's in such a big rush,
right?
And it's hard to see the big picture at times, but just be patient. Like you said, day at a time, man, put in the work. Whatever you want to get done that day, you get done that day. Try not to look too far ahead. That's amazing, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
And what is it away from the rink for you? Do you have something?
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm in Seattle, it's a lot different than Dallas. I mean, you know, they say in Dallas you could watch your dog run away for a week, right? So, you know, I love Dallas, but it's definitely nice to have the mountains in Seattle, you know, the lakes. Hiking's a big thing to do out there. So just kind of enjoying the scenery on the West Coast it's been a really cool experience for me, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
You cooking yet?
I don't know if I call it cooking.
You didn't do too much cooking back then. I was wondering if you picked it up. You still eating Panda Express?
Maybe when the cameras are off, we'll address that.
I know.
I got a couple staples, right? I mean, you're eating kind of the similar thing every single night. It's like pasta, rice, chicken, salmon, you know. So I got my staples for sure.
Just seeing your development and the success that you've had and are going to continue to have in the future, man. I wish you nothing but the best. Keep grinding, and best of luck, buddy.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Okay, let's go.
Hey.